Hello, model railroaders! How do you get the most railroad out of your space? Welcome to Model Railroad Designs, and today we're diving into a custom HO scale layout. Tackles a big challenge, fitting a double track mainline into a 20 by 12 foot space. Stick around to see how a liftgate unlocked a massive mainline run and why it beat an alternative walk-in design. Please hit that like button if you like liftgates or walk-in designs. Welcome to Model Railroad Designs. This project was a dream for any HO scale enthusiast. Client wanted a layout inspired by Metro North in the Northeast, set in the transition era, with a double-track mainline, elevation changes, and room for long freight trains. But what's the catch? It all had to fit in half of this space. They also wanted continuous running, number 6 turnouts, and a minimum 22-inch mainline radius. Oh, and possibly a turntable. But before we dive into design, let's talk about some challenges. So the client initially proposed this walk-in design. So here in the yellow, we have the walls all the way around, and this gray is actually open, but I just put it as a barrier for myself. So you would walk in from here, from the top, and then you can go all the way around. And the train would actually have 2 loops. You'd have a folded dog bone, as they would call it. And the central peninsula is there. It's a great space to do some scenery. You can even make it bigger if you want to. You might have some accessibility issues in the middle, but fine. So what do we see? How do I start with all designs? Is just to plan in what you can get out of the space. So let's start here on the right, is that you would have this orange just represents a straight piece of track. And as you go to the wall, you need to make a corner. And so you got this 90-degree curve. And the other way as well, you're going to bump into the wall. So you need a 90-degree curve there as well. And if you do that all around the layout, you quickly get a sense of what can fit in the space and if it could even work at all. This critical area, because you got to go from the return loop and then go back. There's plenty of space, but that could be considered a critical area. So now let's focus on these orange boxes, and I made it like that because then we could quickly see the amount of straight track we could possibly get from this design, because that's what we all want as model railroaders. For most designs like this is a lot of straight track for stations and yards and whatnot. So we have a very long one here in the bottom, and let's call it a medium one on the right. And the other ones are quite cut up into smaller pieces. So that was the first challenge. And don't forget, this is going to be double track mainline. So if we're running long trains, especially here in this peninsula and the other return loop, we don't want it to feel cramped. And I think that's what you're going to get if you go down this road. The challenge that the client wanted a turntable. Well, that could really fit nicely on one of these big space hogs that are these return loops. So to convince them that there are better options, I made this. And this is basically with a liftgate here on the left. And then after the liftgate is still, well, somewhat walk-in design. It has a peninsula as well. I rotated the peninsula, so it's now in the lengthwise direction. And the big difference is you can see it. We have a lot more straight track. We have a massive long one here in the top. We have a shorter one here in the bottom. We have the medium one on the right. That's more or less the same size. And then we have these 2 here in the center where we can do something on the peninsula. So if we just flip back, you can just see it. The downside is, of course, we have the liftgate. That was the big compromise, let's say, from the client side. Now, another thing I had on my sleeve to convince the client to put in this liftgate is now the continuous run is really long, especially if you flip it with going through the peninsula once and then around and then maybe skipping the peninsula. This would basically have it twice around the room. You have a very long run, and you can really nicely place long trains on a set like this. So that is my solution to bring all these wishes from the client into a space that he has. So after the client agreed to the basic concept, I started to fill it out a little bit. I flipped the whole set. The staging is here on the top in this little nook. And then if I scroll down, the yard would be a nice place to have that down below. Without filling in everything exactly, there would be two double track main lines, so 2 tracks here, and probably an extra siding for a large industry, another industry here on the other side of the peninsula. And here would be a massive junction on the lower level and track flying over that. Really an iconic scene. I'll get back to that in a little bit, and what the purpose is of that as well. So going to the next level of design, I start to fill everything in. Now let's go a bit through the detail and the functions of everything. Down below would be interchange / industry support yard. So this is basically where trains come in from staging, they pick up and drop off cars they need, and they continue back to staging. And then we have a few resident engines here that would make and originate trains from the yard as locals to support the industries and to come back. So a yard usage like that wouldn't really justify to have a big turntable with all the bells and whistles. There's a coaling tower here, sanding, water, and some engine sheds, a little place for a RIP track here, but nothing more than that. And the client wasn't too set on having a turntable. So after I explained like how much space that would take, and also how many engines and traffic and jobs you need to justify such a turntable, this seemed like a really nice solution. Let's talk about the train route. So let me just turn all the scenery off. I hope that clarifies things a little bit. Let's just first look at the two possible loops. I'm going to highlight them here in green. The first one takes the outer track all the way around and stays on the same height, same deck level, and is very basic, but that is a loop. That's one loop. But we wanted a longer loop. So let me just take the clockwise one, starting at the yard down below. And first we head down the peninsula as such. And then go here, and then if we stick to the inside, we head back up on the corner, and then bend, then the corner to the station, and then back at the yard. So that would be the longest single loop. I mean, you could make it in a way that you do this inner loop and then you do the outer loop to make the technically longest run, but this is the most practical long one, I would say. You can do both loops in both directions. There are crossovers here to accommodate that, and the same here to accommodate that. And there is this siding here where trains can wait to pass each other, as some sections are single track. They might look double track, but they function as single track. Now let's look at the staging area, how that would work. So coming from the yard, going counterclockwise, if you want to go to staging, you got to take this track here, take the crossover, go around the peninsula, and then you dive in from here into staging, just like that. And coming out of staging, let's say you want to go counterclockwise, it will be the same loop, but going clockwise, you would come in here, and then you would take the inner track up, up, and then take the crossover, and then you're at the station, just like that. Now this double crossover here on the right also has extra functionality. So let's say we have a train coming here on the inner line, and it wants to go to the yard. And for whatever reason, this yard, let's call it lead, is occupied because an engine is doing a runaround, or there's a train slowly exiting or entering the yard. Then we could take this double crossover, switch around into here, and then enter the arrival departure track from this area. This double crossover on this side has the same function, additional function, I should say. So now let's dive into the layout a little bit more. Let's start with the paper mill, and it's basically receiving raw products here on the right. The loading bays for the paper are here on the left. This siding is specifically for the paper mill to use. Of course, we can do some runarounds on the main track, but the siding is there for the paper mill. And on the right, we have first the pulpwood unloading facility, where we would receive pulpwood. We'll go through the conveyor into the pulpwood processing facility, where it would be washed and bleached and all kinds of things. And for that bleach, we would need chlorine. So here we have a chlorine unloading facility, or tank car unloading facility, because all these chemicals in these tanks also have to be pumped back and disposed of properly. And then here on the left, we have the loading and unloading facility for the paper. That would be here on this track that goes inside into the building. And this second track would be more for receiving a packaging material for the paper and or machine parts, equipment, stuff like that. Now, on the other side of the peninsula, we have the aggregate business as discussed. So that's this one siding right here. We could have a small little engine, little ML8 spotted here just to move the cars around on this this track as they're all loaded and unloaded and slowly filling up. Now we come to really one of the key scenes, I think, here on the left. We haven't talked about that yet at all. And we have on the lower deck, that's this, that would be a junction. And then on the upper deck, we have the tracks flying over it. So I think that would really be a beautiful scene. Just imagine two trains passing by on the top deck and then one going into staging like that. To separate the room, the layout a bit from the rest of the room, I propose to put some high hills here on this side and here from this side. Because then if you're standing here, you cannot really see that side of the set. And if you're standing here, you have a nice view in between the hills. But if you're here at staging, that you don't see the rest of the set. I think that would be nice to divide that up and to divvy it up a bit. So the scene is really here from the inside. Now the liftgate is here. We do have this double crossover exactly on the liftgate, but that will fit. You don't want any curves to be on the liftgate, so there is some straight track just before and just after the liftgate to really ensure that you don't have any derailments there. Now on the right, I opted to add some more industries, just two different buildings, one track. So just for some more local switching. So another rule of this crossover is to get to this industry a bit more easy when you're coming from the yard. So then here on the right, you have your classical station. So a, the passenger station here? Yes, and your freight depot here with a separate track. So another industry and also team track. So two industries basically to switch from your yard. And then as we continue, it slowly gets more rural. So we have a creek here with a wooden trestle. And then up north, we have your coal tipple with two tracks. Here we have a highway going through the scene. So this highway goes over the bottom track and has a grade crossing here on the top track, together with the two bridges here over the river. And then we go onto the peninsula. We already discussed the peninsula. Now for the staging, this, well, it's called a yard throat of the staging. Looks a bit overdone, but I assure you it's not, because we have trains coming in from this track and they need to leave on this track and they need to leave the staging from that track. So that's why I opted for this double crossover. So trains can basically come in here and then choose from any of these tracks and then leave again with a double crossover in that direction. And the same for the other direction. This layout really shows how a liftgate can unlock a very long main run in a tight space, with even some double track mainline as well. I hope you've enjoyed this. Please hit the subscribe button. It really helps the channel out immensely. And if you want early access to videos like this, join my YouTube membership for only $3.99 a month. And members get to see the new content, new layout designs first. So if you want this track plan or other track plans, please check out my Patreon page. So you're looking for a full custom design, or if you just want to bounce off some ideas in a 2-hour phone call, check out Model Railroad Designs. Please don't forget to grab a Turnout Spur and Siding t-shirt from my store. You can see it just below this video. It really helps out the channel when you buy merchandise, and you get a great product in return. Perfect for showing your love for the hobby. So again, for full custom layout, check modelrailroaddesigns.com. Members get early access to another layout design coming soon. Become the member and see it first. Thank you to all my Patreon supporters. It really makes this channel viable. So what's your favorite part of this layout? Is it the paper mill, the long continuous running, this junction with the flyovers, or just this classical station on the right? Let me know down below, and I'll see you in the next one.